Hello and welcome to the second part of High Performance Imports V2 commentary. We're still at Sendai Highland Drag Strip and we're just about to go into the GT-R class.
The GT-R division of the Street Fighter class has 32 entrants at this meet. If your GT-R can't run a 9, there's not much point coming to Sendai. Type of turbo used is usually the most significant difference between Japanese drag cars. The time you can achieve with a certain type of turbo is a matter of considerable pride for Japanese workshops. This auto service Mori R32 is using twin HKS 3240 turbos on a 2.8 litre engine. This seems to be the gun setup for street drag GTRs.
Seemed to be in 2001. That changed a little bit over the years.
It's certainly a handful at half track, but check out the top end speed. K Paddock's R33 uses a pair of Apex RX6 turbos.
According to that number plate, he came all the way from Fukuoka. Now here's something we also got a bit of complaint about when the videos first came out, the pronunciation of Apex. A lot of people say it should be Apex or Apexi, but in fact in Japan they do pronounce it Apex. And I've been to the factory, so I can guarantee you that is how they actually say it.
It also has one of the neatest engine bays here, along with AP 6-piston brake calipers. Well, it had the mile per hour, but not the ET. This Auto Garage pit-in R32 is using a HKS T51R SPL turbo, and you guessed it, Nitto NT 555R tyres.
That's kind of a joke because basically every single car in the street class at that meeting was using Nitto tyres. This was before you could get any other brand of radial drag tyre. Later on you had Hoosiers and BF Goodrich and a few others. But back then, the Nitto NT 555 was pretty much it.
The Makina R33 is having another bad meeting. In our last video it dropped oil. This time it just can't seem to get off the line. It's up against the Techno Sports R33, which uses twin IHI RX6 turbos.
Another cool thing on that car, it's got Riga Master wheels, which went out of production probably a good 10-15 years ago now. They were extremely lightweight, forged aluminium wheels. To give you an example, I mean a 17 by 10, which is what that car's probably running, in a normal aluminium wheel brand, you'd be looking probably 7.5 to 8.5 kilos, maybe even 9. Whereas in a Riga Master, it'd be something like 6. They were really, really light. little bit prone to cracking if you if you hit bad potholes and that sort of thing. But very, very cool wheel. It's a shame they're not around anymore.
This silver Espoir R32 was one of the quickest at the meet, using a pair of secret HKS turbos. Here's another run with less wheel spin off the line.
You might notice at this point there's a few more photographers on the track. A lot of them didn't turn up until the GT-R started racing.
The wide-body kit on the EMS factory R32 looks sensational. Surprisingly, it only uses a single HKS T51R SPL turbo, but the stripped body is very light, with a carbon fibre bonnet and Lexan windows. It's up against the Decide RH9 car, which carries a pair of HKS 3240 turbos.
In case you're new to GT-R drag racing, back in the late 90s and through to this point, there was a sort of a club called RH9, which was basically all of the workshops who had built a GT-R street legal, what they would call street legal, that could run a 9-second pass, or so, a pass in the nines. But by the time this video came out, there were already quite a few cars running in the eights.
It may be plain looking, but don't let that fool you.
Another thing you might not know if you haven't watched GT-R's drag racing very much is how they're able to do rear-wheel drive burnouts when they're a four-wheel drive car. There's a few ways around it. In the R32s, you could actually just pull a relay out of the fuse box and that'd disable front-wheel drive, although you shouldn't do it too often. Apparently it was still bad for the transfer case. But in a dedicated drag car, what they would do is take away the normal hydraulic control of the transfer case and have a manual pump lever. That way they could do the burnout without any pressure going to the transfer case. Then once they'd done the burnout, they'd manually pump up the pressure in the transfer case to bring back four-wheel drive, and the amount of pressure that they put in there would determine the percentage of torque going to the front. Obviously, you can't do a four-wheel drive burnout or you'll probably go straight into the wall.
These are HKS 3037S turbos on the Expert R33. It's quick, but it still gets hosed by the Grand Slam option R32, which has a pair of Truss T67 turbos. Now we're getting down to the finalists. Here's that tough Mori R32 with the HKS 3240 turbos. Just barely keeps it in the lane.
A lot of these quicker cars were running a Hollinger 6-speed sequential transmission from Australia, whereas the lower budget cars, I suppose you could say, a lot of them would run either a Trust dog engagement gearbox, sometimes just a close ratio gearbox from OS Geekin or one of the other makers. But even the slowest cars at this meeting would not be using a standard gearbox, or you would see it littered all over the track.
The yellow Waste Sports R33 also uses 3240s with a Valeside 100mm throttle body. It has run a best time of 8.916 seconds. It's racing an R34 from Revolution that also carries HKS 3240 turbos. Check out this guy in the blue jacket. He really takes pride in his burnout instructions.
These are also the days when you put the sticker from every part that you added to your car down the side of the door. Makes it pretty easy to tell what turbo and other parts people are running.
The Endless R33 has been one of the top GTRs in the street class for over a year. The engine has an HKS 2.8 litre kit and twin HKS 3240 turbos, with a claimed power output of 1200 horsepower. Its best time is 8.974, and this run isn't much slower.
Trying to get a little bit arty with my camera angles there.
But it wasn't the fastest car at this meet. That honour goes to the Signal R34, which ran its best ever time. Signal claim only 1,060 horsepower from a similar engine setup to the endless R33. Yes, it's still our favourite.
Okay, that's it for the GT-R class. Sadly, no one quite made it into the 8-second bracket in that meeting, but it was pretty cool. Even just walking around in the pits there was amazing. Certainly do miss it. Anyway, part 3 will be coming up shortly.